Hi everyone, thank you for being here. Now we have Nathalie from Rodeo FX to talk about special effects.
Merci. Hi, everyone. Is the sound okay? Yeah? Okay. Hi, I'm Natalie. Welcome and thank you for having me, Katarina. This is a great opportunity. I'm going to talk about Rodeo FX. We're a medium-sized company in Montreal, Canada, and I'll go through everything that's related to VFX and the VFX industry. I'll talk about the pipeline and how your studies are related to our work every day with the creative team, but with the technicians. So it's really wonderful to be here. It's my first time in Lisbon, so I'm really excited and I'm really happy. And I even got the chance yesterday to meet your wonderful president at the opening ceremony, a very nice person. So let's get started. So I'll go through the mind-blowing imagery and how tech and science are a big portion of what we do and how it's directly related with the softwares and the technical skills that we have to employ. So I'll start by introducing myself. So I'm Nathalie Girard. I'm the senior head of the 2D division. So the 2D division includes 4 different departments that I oversee, about 200 and something artists and technicians. So we have the compositing field and the roto prep, and I'll go through all of those different fields during the presentation. I also overview the editorial and I/O, that everything that comes in and goes out from our pipeline, and another new department that we do have, commercial division. So I've been in the industry about 20 years. I started more as an artist, as a compositor in a small company in Montreal. And from years after that, I decided to apply and go to the United States, and got lucky enough to be able to work at Lucasfilms, at Industrial Light and Magic, with one of the biggest and oldest company in VFX. And it's where the pioneers of the VFX industry was born, in Northern California, San Francisco, with John Knowles and Roger Gayette, and especially George Lucas, who is one of the main pioneers with all the Star Wars movies. So I was able to spend about 10 years of my life over there, doing from a mid-level artist to graduating to more of a lead and supervising teams and projects. But the industry took a big shift, and a lot of the industry moved to Canada, and especially in Montreal. So it was a time that we reflected and wanted to go back home with my husband and my son. So decided to go back to Montreal to join other companies. So I did a couple before ending up at Rodeo. So I'll go over Rodeo, what we do. But this is an example of a couple of movies that I've worked on in the past and more recently. So now at Rodeo, I interact with technical teams all the time, every day. I even interact more than just the creative team, because they're a big portion of how we can progress rapidly and go through the technical challenges that we overcome with the clients and with the big projects. And I get the chance to work with the type of people that you're studying with computer graphics or computer science today. So I'll go through the pipeline. Before, I want to introduce Rodeo as well. Rodeo is a Canadian company, born and raised Canada, but we have 4 different locations across North America. The latest one is in Toronto, so I have Montreal, Quebec, Toronto, and LA. And we're looking into establishing an office here somewhere in Europe, so we'll find somewhere that maybe you guys can apply. Rodeo has 16-year baggage in the VFX industry, but now we're more of a 360 stop shop, in the sense that it's a creative company. So we do episodic and VFX, but we also do content for commercials. We do animation content as well. So for the Canary, that was nominated at the, I think at the Sundance and a couple of different events. And we have audio. And the latest one is experience. So it's anything that's special screen for billboards that you can see at Times Square or in the London Square. We do like big screens, or for shows or special venues. So here's our couple of example. We have Black Adam as a feature. We have Callisto Protocol, was more of a commercial brand that we did. We have Love, Death, and Robot is a TV series that you can check on Netflix. And the Stranger Things experience is the one that's touring around the world. It's a different kind of replicas of the world of Stranger Things, and we did a special content for the experience. So this is, I think it's touring right now in Paris. So here's a couple of examples of shows that we're working on in the last couple of years. Stranger Things that we all know. Now John Wick 4 that's coming out, I think, very soon in March. So the big sequence, if you go see it, the attack in Paris was done at Rodeo. Bloodshot. So at Rodeo, the other good thing is we're not just doing one type of creative content. We do all kinds, like invisible effects to very gory effects like Stranger Things 4. These are the type of awards that we're winning in the last couple of years, and most recently the VES award. That's an award especially for VFX, and we were really happy to win one this year for the Love, Death, Robot, the night of the Mini Dead for outstanding compositing and lighting episode. So I'm really proud because it was one of my lead who was able to get this reward in LA a couple weeks ago. So that was a very proud moment for the company and for Tim. Here are an example of just clients that we work with throughout the years, and we're very happy to have big names up there, so a lot of Marvels, and so I'm sure you know all of them. So now we're going to go to the sizzle reel. So it's just to showcase the latest work that we've been doing and maybe in the last 2 years. So enjoy. The one that won the award, it's the Love, Death, and Robot. So that gives you an idea what we do every day and the type of work that we work really hard at with many people. I don't know if I mentioned we're about 800 and growing at Rodeo with all of our facilities. So, okay, so now I'll start with the VFX pipeline, and one very important part of the pipeline is concepts or from the VFX, because it always starts with a story, either from a script, from a comic book. So there's references that are always coming towards that, or even when we create new characters, it comes with a description, sometimes very brief. So concepts is very much the visual reference that the creative team use to establish a look with the clients, with them, and internally as well, that we can distribute to the rest of the team to always fall back on when they're not sure where they're supposed to go with their shots or their work. So here we have a concept team in Montreal. And this is a quick example just from a script. This is from the Sandman episodic. So from the script, there was this character, Galt. It was a brand new character, and the only description that we received from the content was a shapeshifter with a body made of stars. So it's really hard to start with that. So we went to the drawing board and decided to create something that we can talk and look over with the client. So you can see on the left-hand side, and the right side is the final result. So we can talk over with this with the client and say, okay, is this the direction you want to take? And if so, then let's prepare ourselves that when we go on shoot and on site, sending our VFX supervisor, that we guide them to the proper way to shoot the actress so we can benefit of the images to have her look like she's supposed to. And on the bottom line, it was the only reference that we had was a comic book. So again, back to the drawing board, and we decided to say, okay, this is what we want to look for, and the final result on set, plus the enhancement of the VFX in there. After that, we're going to go through the technical VFX pipeline. So we're going to use I think it's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yes, sorry. I'm pretty sure some people know about it. It was a big episodic from Marvel. So who knows about this episode? Yeah, a couple of you guys? Okay, cool. So we'll go through the sequence that we're going to show while talking about the VFX pipeline. And so then I'm going to break down the process of from the drawing board that you saw to the final images. So I'm going to show the next one is another reel, and it's just the sequence that I'm going to talk about. So here we had to recreate a fight scene on the top of like the big moving trucks that you can see. So take the time to analyze and try to memorize what you think is real and what you think is fake. And at the end, I'll show you what was fake and what was real. So you get to understand how much is today the content is affected by VFX all the time, every day. So that's why it's a very rapid and growing industry, and it's been around for many years. So I'll take another quick look. So try to see what's fake and what's real in there. Because the goal of VFX is always to make believe, especially like these were called like invisible effects, because there's no like magic or strange kind of explosion or creatures like Vecna in Stranger Things. So this gives you an idea. Okay, so from this point, it's important to know in VFX, it's divided in two kind of big families. One is the asset, and the other one is the shot work. So there's a lot of steps that we need to respect in the proper order before going to the final image. So we're going to start with the asset part. Assets can be anything. Asset, as long as it's created in 3D, it's called an asset. So you can see there's vehicle, digital double. Digital double can be called as well, because Vecna we had to replicate in 3D because we needed to make him do some special moves. Or you saw there's the vines that are kind of alive on him. It can be a prop, so a car, it can be a flower pot, it can be a creature, a kitten. Anything that's created in CG is called an asset. So in the asset family, there's specialized group of people that work. So there's the modeling team, texture, shading, the groom, rigging, and environment. I'll go through those step by step. So first, when we do start, we have the scans. So the scans, you can see the images on the right-hand side is the pictures of reference of the Falcon. And they always scan them as well in 360, and we base off the model off of those, because that gives us enough precision, especially for the size and the formats, but it never, we have to always go back on it and really add the details. And you'll see it a little later. So after that being scanned, we receive everything. We go into the modeling. We call them as well modelers, or the digital clay sculpture, because before in VFX we had to clay make the characters, but now it's all done in CG. So we match everything from the picture references of the Falcon And we put them in different type of environment, and we call these turntables to really analyze if everything is matching the actual actor. Another part of modeling is the skin, the face, that it moves properly and reacts like a human skin as much as possible, because usually digital double that are not quite well made can really look fake. So facial expression, and especially from the character and the actor, we always need to base it off of him. After that, we jump into grooming. Grooming are kind of the digital hairstylists because they are in charge of creating the haircut or respecting the haircut, the body hair, the facial hair, the tiny fabrics on a piece of cloth. If you're having a wool shirt or leather or velvet, it's really important for the groom to make sure that everything is right at their spot, especially when we go down the stream of the VFX pipeline. Those material and modeling details will react to the next steps. So after that, we move into textures. Textures are the one who adds the proper color and the proper look on materials. It can be from, like I said, like velvet and leather, and you have steel, and you have plastic, so they make sure that all the colors are matching from the suit here, from an example. And once that their color is matching properly, we move on to the next department. And these are really tedious and detailed tasks that the artist needs to do. After that, we go into shading. So once the texture is okay, we go into shading. This is where to analyze and make sure that the material that were placed are reacting to the light. So if it's a sunlight kicking on the leather, does it react like a leather in the sunlight? The same thing is the reflection at the right level on the on anything that's steel, velvet, does it react like velvet? So this is the shading part. So we have on the turntable of the Falcon on the right, and again here, once it's digital, does it match properly? So you can see it's pretty close. I think it's pretty close to 100%. After that, we go into shading. This is another a step that we look at to make sure that it reacts properly once it's moving. And after all of these steps, we can finally go into the animation stages. So it's the rigging. This is the skeleton that it will be applied to the body to make sure it moves properly. You can see there's anchor points, and we always have references of the actor moving as well. So there's a ton of references when they're shot on screen. But here we do analyze everything moves well, and you can see, does the leather move like leather? Does it look stiff? Does it overlap with the steel or from a part of his backpack? So here we're going to go at a test. Do you think these guys, this is really the Falcon that's doing this flip, or it's done in CG? So this is another important part. Is the animation going to work properly? Does it react like the actor? And does all the component of his suit, his leather, the steel works properly? So this is a type of test before we move into shots, making sure everything is functioning. So after that, we move into shots. And the shots second part is the layout, animation, CFX, crowd effects, lighting, and compositing. So this is the plate, not when we receive it, because with the scan of the big trucks, but this is what we receive. So from this point on, we have to make sure, that's a really important step, is to take the digital, take the camera information and convert it to a digital camera, because from there on, we're going to put the CG characters in there. They have to render properly. They have to track. If they're jumping on the truck, they need to be sitting on the truck. So the layout portion of the work is super, super crucial. After that, we go into anim blocking. It's not the final stages of animation, but just, okay, what's the story point? Where are the characters supposed to lie? What's the action? What is Captain America supposed to do? So they go into the anim blocking stages to make sure that the storyline is respected in the script and the rest of the sequences. After that, they go into final anim. This is where all the details come in, say the fight sequence, because they're jumping on him. How's the bad guy going to react? Is there another fight going on in the background with the Faulkner? And once this is approved, they move into CFX. So CFX is another layer of details, is how does the leather react with the wind, with the action, with the truck moving along. You can see from the character where he's jumping to, does the jacket really reacts well to the wind? Is the metal plates on Captain America supposed to move a certain way or not? So these are final touches of details. After that, we can move into lighting. So the lighting part is how do we match the lighting from the plate? So where does the main area are lit? Where's the sun position? You can see here at the bottom, there's always a chrome ball that we use to make sure that we have the proper lighting direction. And they're just blocking off while we're seeing steps, because rendering CG is super heavy, so we don't want to waste time on the render farm, like we say. So we just block in key shots or key elements of the shots, and we pick out frames. And from those, we just say, okay, is the lighting going to match? Is it working properly? Now we can go into final rendering. So this is when it's get out to render. Okay, the lighting is approved. Is the shadow going to be at the right place? Is everything moving properly? You can see the CFX from the jacket, how it moves and everything, and even the hair. And the final stages, once it's all put together, so it's in the compositing. So the comp department is in charge of taking all the 2D elements, so the plate and the truck, and putting all the CG characters on top, or the CG elements, and put it into a final picture. And you can see at the beginning that the Captain America is out of focus. So this is another type of details that we need to add. The defocus and the grain, because usually even if it's digital camera, there's always some grain. So we have to match the grain so everything looks seamlessly. And they add the shadows. Since here it's not a super bright day, it's really diffused, the type of shadow. So depending if it's a super bright day, this will affect the realism of the shot. So this is, now I'm going to show you, so remember what you looked at, the sequence in action, and now it's kind of a breakdown, so you'll see how every shot were a breakdown, and you can see exactly what was CG and what's real. So here, this is a full CG shot here as well, because on the client side, this was a shot on the highway, and finally at the last minute, Marvel said, no, we want it to happen in the forest. So we had to build an 8-kilometer long forest in CG. So this one as well is a full CG shot. And I think today we don't realize how much content it's made. That's why there's so many jobs out there. See here, we had to change everything. So that gives you a good idea of the VFX pipeline, I hope. Do you have any questions in regard of this, what we did? No? We can take them at the end if you have anything. Okay. On this part, we'll talk about Foundation Season 1. So we picked a sequence that was pretty impressive for Rodeo to do. It's the Trantor Scar sequence. And on, not Episode 1, Season 1, sorry. Because we're working on Season 2, and we're going to work on Season 3. So more to come. So there you go. So I'm going to walk through the image, because this is another breakdown. So the approach that Arnaud Brisebois was the VFX supervisor with the creative team and the tech team, they had to break it down into many steps of analysis, because they had to recreate a huge, huge, huge city. Kind of, if you can imagine, Manhattan 20 times as long and 50 times as high. So it has to be humongous, and they had to create this big gash or scar effect right in the middle. So there was a lot to populate here. You can see what was shot and all the rest that is CG, and to kind of always make it seamlessly and believable. That's always I think the toughest part. So this is like concepts that we received from the client, that kind of the idea that they wanted to, for us to be guiding towards to. And this was an actual concept. So the team, the original idea, especially from the client side, they wanted to shoot this on camera with miniature sets. But they quickly realized that it's not super flexible, and it didn't give that, ginormous effect of the city. So they decided to call up Rodeo and do it fully in CG. So everything is CG in there, except for the couple of shots that you'll see that was shot, but the rest, the environment is all CG. So they needed to establish how they're going to put this layout, and they were able to get away with very diverse and non-replicated building with only 20 type of buildings, but at really 5 different stages of destruction. And by populating it throughout the shots, they really created a lot of variation. I just want to make sure, because I didn't work on this, so I have to go through the notes of the supervisor. And people that were really involved into this, sorry, I don't know why it stopped. Just going to restart it so you can analyze. A big part of the team that were really involved on this Houdini software that the FX team use, they were the one, you can see how big it is. And two, they had to do a different stages of destruction, because it's when the event is happening and throughout time how it decayed and the fire were going out as the progress of the episodes, because there's a couple of episodes that they shot onto this planet. Just want to make sure. So they teamed up a lot with the, I'll talk about these special jobs that they have. There's a dev team and the TD team that we call, the developers and the technical director. And they had to create extra tools to the software, the Houdini, to make sure that they were able to do this very big task. This is months and months of work. So yeah, 21 buildings at 5 different shattering stages that created about 105 variation to populate the whole environment. And again, like I said, concept and references are really, really important. They looked at tons and tons of references out there to make sure that's kind of believable what's the stages of burn, when it's burned to decayed and completely destroyed, and it trickles down to areas that it's not decayed, how that should be looking for. So they look at many, 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 many references all the time. Okay, and after that, we're going to jump into Stranger Things. I'm sure a lot of people know about this. So this is another reel. And listen carefully. This is the breakdown of the mine layer sequence.
The main challenge of this sequence in Stranger Things Season 4 was to create a new world that had never been seen before, Vecna's mine lair. It was important to honor the look and quantity of the spires and how they form a pathway to the main island amongst the 2D haze. Floating fragments of the recognizable Creel house were spread across the environment to tell the story, including its iconic door. The sky, which was also a full 2D asset, was used to reveal crucial elements through flashes of lightning. Integrating the practical set with the CG environment was one of the biggest challenges in comp. In order to look more like real actors, we also replaced some body parts of the dummy characters hanging on the spires. And then comes the main villain, Vecna. We replaced most of his body parts with CG since all his veins are constantly moving. It was a challenge on some shots to keep parts from the plate Vecna, like his face, and integrate it seamlessly with CG Vecna. He then starts to use his powers to control the vines in the environment to fasten Max to the spire. The vines were fully CG, and the challenge we had in comp was to create movement interaction with Max's body. So there are some reactions on her skin as the slime-covered vines compress against it. As Max's friends are trying to help, the portal, a mix of effects and 2D elements, starts to emerge in the scene. It had to feel like it was a part of the environment, but at the same time create a contrast to the outside world. It's also a new light source in the environment, so light interaction was required to help integration and build a reflection through the ground fog. As part of the final sequence where CG debris is falling, one of our biggest challenges was the interaction between practical blood and fog in the plate. We shot some practical elements at the studio to use them in these shots alongside the effects elements for a more realistic feeling. Additionally, adding very specific cam shakes, creating interactive shadows on Max from the falling debris, and using Deep to build a full 360-degree haze setup in Nuke were some of the main 2D approaches we used to finesse these final iconic shots. Thanks for watching.
So that gives you even more details. How there's so much work. All these steps are crucial. And there's a mention of a couple of, and I'll go through them, it's softwares that we use. So we have the softwares, but the softwares come with a specific package. But the developers and technical directors really help us create the tools. So everything that needs to be scripted or built or coded is all the extra to be able for us to do what we want to do as an extra pass of precise or, challenges. Okay, so that's why I come in. It's like the mind, the tech, and science. Can you see working in the VFX industry by what you're studying right now, if you're studying math or coding and Python and C++? Because it's, like I said, it's super important. Seeing these images or any of these moving streaming show, does it inspire you guys to work in VFX? I hope it does, because it is a big part of our industry. So in this next slide, completely at the right are the main softwares that we use every single day. And like Nuke is one of the very important one, is the compositing, so everything that you saw at the end. So Nuke is a lot based on Python. Not sure all the rest, but the Python and C++ is pretty much the two languages that we use, okay? So we use these every day, and the power of the minds, the computer science, and the simple and more complex tech language that they use, the VFX industry will not be as evolved today as it was with these three components. These are helping us to push the boundaries and create the creative imagination that populates all the fantastic images that we can enjoy on our screens. Without the experts in computer science and the mastering of Python and C++ example, and the variation and combination of these languages, and introducing those into the softwares and creating the automation and the tools that simplify the artist's work every day and to make them even more creative, so there's no more boundaries with the softwares. So in the visual effect industry, there's a large pool of opportunities, and there's a lot of place for skilled people like you guys studying computer science and combining the artistic skills with the technical wisdom. So what does, like I said here, technical directors and developers, so those are our tech team. What does a TD do, a technical director? They're the direct support to each department that we saw, from, say, the asset, the animation, the modeling, the grooming. They all use softwares, but they're always relying on their TDs, because the TDs are the one that goes into the code of the software and do the added tools that they require. And what are the developers? They are the foundation of the pipeline. They handle the different building blocks that are all put together, and they're the foundation with their colleagues, the TDs. They really work close together to continue the work to implement the tools and the automation into the pipeline. And the other thing now is, like, there's the artists, so the compositors, the animators, and everything, but they work really closely with the TDs as well. So they're as much involved in the creative process, because they have to be the creative ones that can help us solve the problems or the technical challenges that we have to overcome. So creativeness is not just about putting out pretty pictures. We think about that, saying creative is what I can do visually, but there's the creative problem solving that is one of our very important values at Rodeo, that stay creative and problem solving, and especially with problem solving as into a team. So the thing is about technical directors, it's important to say, they make the artists' lives easier through the support of the automation, the development of the tools to help create the creative team to do better work. Sometimes it really means to doing complicated mathematics that I don't know about, so thank God that people understand and can do this really hard coding. So at Rodeo, we have about 10 TDs, tech dev, and 10 developers as well, but there's always place for talent, and as the company is growing, I mean, they will need more and more technicians, that's for sure. So I think that's it for my part. If you have any questions, please go ahead. I think Katarina is going to walk around with the mic or somebody. I'm more than happy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nathalie, for this interesting and amazing talk. Does anyone...
Thank you. Now I'm going to relax.
Does anyone have any questions for Nathalie?
Questions? I'm more than happy to reply to. But I think Katarina had one. There you go.
Firstly, thank you again for sharing your experience with us. It was very inspiring to hear you.
Good.
I would like to know what movie or TV show was your biggest challenge during your 20 years
Oh my God.
working at Rodeo, please.
But at Rodeo, I think the challenges is a lot about there's a lack of resources, so we have to produce a lot with less people to actually do it. So that's why we rely more and more on tooling and automation that the TDs and dev do for us, because now we can't use the bare minimum of the software to accomplish what we need. So that's why. So I would say it's resources. Challenges throughout, maybe for me, on my personal experience, is when the first Marvel movie, Iron Man, came out. So I was working at ILM, and there was no history behind Marvel except for the comic book. So we had to be super creative. So there's one sequence my supervisor gave me. It's when Iron Man starts fighting with this bad guy, and I had to do the effect on his chest. So nobody knew what to do. It's like, okay, so here's Nathalie. You have 10 shots. Let's do something creative to do the effect of when he shoots out of his, his main chest. So that was one of them. There's always challenges. Honestly, it can be creative. Sometimes it can be technically tough. Like you saw, there's blue screens that we shoot the main actors. So in compositing, it can be something super tough because while they're shooting, the lighting is not right. So you can't do the extraction and take out the blue screen to put in the actor. I worked on the first Pirates of the Caribbean. That was super tough. It was shot on a props boat in the stage, so it was not on water. It was raining in the stage. There was wind. It was really bad lit, so it was super hard to make it believable. So it's always try to make believe, because if the audience doesn't believe what they're seeing, you didn't do your job well. So there's many challenges, and I'm sure there's more to come. Does that reply to your question? Yeah?
Okay, thank you so much. Sadly, we don't have time for more questions.
Katarina?
However,
one more. She had a question.
Mine is more like a curiosity because I just wanted to know, for you as a VFX supervisor, do you do like any work on set, or everything is done like afterwards, after everything is shoot, or do you do like anything actually like on the movie set?
So
like during like
there's many parts, like the artist will not go on, so it's going to be VFX supervisors usually. So there's VFX supervisor internally, and there's VFX supervisor on set. So I did go on set sometimes, not all the time, but it's super important, because if it's not well shot, we pay the price at the end in the VFX pipeline, because the lighting is not going to be well, the lighting on the blue screen is not going to be well done, it's going to be hard to roto, so everything influences everything. Does that reply to your question?
Yeah, perfectly.
Parfait.
Thank you.
Merci.
okay, sadly, we don't have time for more questions. However, if you have questions for Nathalie,
Yeah, I'm here.
yeah, she's here. You can ask her later there in the showcase just outside
Parfait.
of the auditorium. Thank you.
Merci. Sorry.
Okay. Now we're going to sort the winner of the prize for this session. Sorry?
That's the prize, yes.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the piece because I have a prize too.
So the prize is an analogic camera and a tote bag from Rodeo.
Yes, nice tote bag from Rodeo.
Okay,
How
let's
does
see
it
who
work?
wins.
How does it work?
You just have to. António Silva. Does Antonio want to come up here? No? Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.